Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day number 976, December the 4th, 2019, Wednesday. That's right, it's Wednesday. And you know what that means. Time to take out the trash and have some chicken. Every Wednesday, I take out the trash and I have chicken. Now, let's get to, before I get to the news of the day, I want to get on this story that broke 2 days ago from the Washington Post, which everybody was talking about. So the story breaks. It's after I've already done my video. So I'm sitting back watching this, read a couple stories, and then Hannity comes on. I watched Hannity because I was sure he would cover it, which he did. It was like his top story, and he's reporting on the story from the Washington Post. And of course, he was biting on it 100%. He had Sarah Carter and Greg Jarrett and a couple other people. They all too seemed to be biting on this Washington Post story. And I was scratching my head and wondering why. First of all, we know that the primary of the three writers on the story, one of them, and the primary writer, is of course Devlin Barrett. Whenever you see Devlin Barrett's name on a story in the Washington Post, he is a direct conduit from the intelligence community, whether it's Brennan or Clapper outside the intelligence community, or whether it is holdovers or people still in the CIA. But we know that the Washington Post, and particularly Devlin Barrett, over the past 3 years, Barrett has been literally a mouthpiece for the CIA through the Washington Post. Why anyone would take anything he says seriously is beyond me. So that was my first issue with the story. Now, if you're not familiar with what story I'm talking about, it is the story that the Washington Post wrote 2 days ago that suggested that the reason why we've had such a delay in the IG report is because that Barr and Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz have had a disagreement over one key part of the IG report, and that is whether or not the FISA, I assume we're talking about the FISA warrant on Carter Page, was properly predicated. Apparently, Horowitz is going to say in his report that it was properly predicated, and Attorney General Barr is raising issues with that, apparently telling Horowitz that actually we have other information that suggests that it was not properly predicated, and that has created this rub, which is why we're told it's been a delay in getting the IG report out. And of course, the piece, being a Devlin Barrett piece, a heavily biased anti-Trump journalist who of course works essentially, I assume he's on the CIA payroll. I assume Barrett is being paid for the work he does for the CIA over there at the Washington Post. So the point that they're trying to make is that Horowitz is the good guy. He's the straight guy. He's the guy that's telling it straight up. The FBI did nothing wrong. Everything was cool about, there may have been some policies and some procedures that weren't correctly followed, but hey, other than that, they had every right to take out the FISA on Carter Page or spy in the Trump campaign or whatever. It was all good. It's all good. McCabe, Comey, Strzok, Page, the whole group, they're all good. They did nothing wrong. Everything's cool. And the Inspector General is probably going to recommend some new layers of bureaucracy to make sure it never happens again. How many times have we heard that? And they're making Barr out to be the bad guy. Oh yeah, well, this is Barr. He's obviously Trump's personal attorney over there, acting as the AG, and he's trying to dig up the dirt on Trump's enemies or whatever. So this is kind of the spin of the Washington Post article. Now, nobody knows at this point, even Lisa Page or anyone else in that group who has seen the part of the Horowitz report where they're involved. That's all they get to see. They don't get a whole copy of the report. All they get is to see whatever parts of it deal with them, and then they get to look it over. They can raise issue with it if they want, but basically that's it. They don't see the whole report either. So Attorney General Barr has obviously seen the entire report, and Horowitz knows what's in the entire report, but most of the people working on it, probably as compartmentalized as it is, don't even know what the whole report says. So I'd rather not speculate based on this story, what I think is in the Horowitz report. I will only say to you what I've been saying to you, that Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz is the custodian. His job is to clean up the mess. When the FBI or DOJ does something that gets their tit in a ringer, gets them in trouble, they bring in the IG. His job is to come in and clean up the mess. His job is not to hold people accountable. He looks for violations of policy or procedure, and then he recommends whatever actions are necessary to make sure that the errors do not happen again. That's what Horowitz does. He is the cleanup man. He's a cover-up man. That's why I've been saying for the longest time, I'm not, I guess I'm looking forward to the Horowitz report. I'm sure there'll be things in there that are fairly damning, but as is always the case with the IG, he will lay out this case which sounds like, uh-oh, he's really got the goods on him, and then just when it comes time, he pulls the punch. He never actually tells you anything that would be of a criminal nature. Or if he does a criminal referral, knowing good and well it goes right back to the DOJ where all the deep staters are, and they're not going to do anything. Horowitz's job is to protect the institution, and the institution is the FBI and the DOJ. That's it. So I've never thought, other than the fact that he's got Attorney General Barr sitting there waiting for the report, and so he's not going to let Horowitz run a cover-up. He is going to hold Horowitz's feet to the fire and force him to tell the truth. And as you can see, if this story, I don't know if it's 10% true, 50% true, 100% true, or 0% true. I don't know. No one's really going to know until the Horowitz report comes out. But let's just assume that this story is legit. If the story is legit, then in this particular case, I don't really think or see how you could say that Horowitz can make a determination as to whether or not the FISA warrant or anything else, the investigation was properly predicated. Horowitz can only talk to people who currently work at the FBI or DOJ. This conspiracy involves a lot of people who are no longer at the FBI and DOJ. This conspiracy includes people who are not in and never were in the FBI or DOJ. They're in the CIA or the DIA, or they're a private citizen like a Joseph Mifsud or Alexander Down the Hatch Downer, or maybe it's some CIA spy like Stefan Halper. And what about all the people over there in London? What about the people in Ukraine? There's many, many people, many witnesses, a lot of evidence, a lot of documents, a lot of information that Horowitz is not privy to, is not allowed to see. So it's not possible for Horowitz to make a determination as to whether or not it was properly predicated. He doesn't have enough information to make that decision. The only thing he can look at is whether or not procedures and protocols were followed in obtaining the FISA warrant. And I understand he was looking into the dossier. Well, what can he do about that? Just about everyone who had something to do with the dossier doesn't work for the FBI or the DOJ. That came from Confusion GPS, Nellie Orr, Mr. Baumgartner, Stefan Halper, and people like that. Horowitz hasn't talked to any of those people. He may have talked to Christopher Steele. I understand he did talk to Christopher Steele. But what's Steele going to do? He's going to do exactly what he did when he was in London and he had to give that deposition. He's going to say the same thing. So you're not going to get anything out of Christopher Steele. So, in other words, Horowitz is not really in a position to say whether or not the entire investigation was properly predicated or not. He doesn't have the information. So, if this story is true, I can certainly see how Barr would get the IG report and go, wait a minute, you're saying that this investigation was properly predicated. Yeah, I've got information from my investigator, Mr. Durham. It's strong evidence that would suggest otherwise. And when he comes out with his findings, you're going to look pretty bad because he's going to contradict what you're saying here. So my guess is that Barr would take issue with the fact that Horowitz is even making a determination on this when he does not have the evidence to make a decision on it, as far as whether the investigation was predicated on correctly. I mean, is he assuming that the dossier was a legit piece of information? Is he assuming the information that came from Stefan Halper about Carter Page was legitimate? He can't make those. You can't do that. If you can't prove the information was legit, you can't make that determination. So I could see where Attorney General Barr would take issue with it. And you know what? If it comes down to a battle between the two, AG Barr wins. He's the boss. Horowitz works for him. So, I don't know. The story true, the story not true, I don't know. But it comes from Devlin Barrett in the Washington Post. So, it's clearly a healthy amount of propaganda involved in it. I mean, it's a propagandized piece in itself. As far as the facts of it, what's in the story, as far as this thing between Barr and Horowitz, that's possible. That's certainly possible. I wouldn't doubt but what Barr read the report and maybe takes issue with some things or something in the report, especially because Barr has a lot more information than Durham has. The fact of the matter is, Horowitz, if Huckleberry Horowitz did not or cannot interview Mifsud, Halper, and Downer, he cannot make a decision. He can't make a decision without interviewing those three guys and knowing exactly who they were working for and what they were tasked with doing. If you can't answer those questions, you cannot make a determination. The only thing Horowitz should be able to say is whether or not they followed procedure going to the FISA court. As far as the information they used with the FISA court, the only thing Horowitz can say is that, it's out of my jurisdiction to be able to investigate deep enough into this to determine whether or not the information was valid or not valid. That's the only thing he can do. So it would surprise me if Horowitz were to come out in the report and try to say, well, the investigation was properly predicated. He does not have the information to make that call. Barr, at this point, with Durham being on the case for as long as he has, Durham has probably given Barr information that is a lot more information than Horowitz has. And I would assume that if there's an issue, Barr would bring Durham in and Horowitz in and look at Durham and say, tell Horowitz what you told me. And then let Horowitz say, well, can you prove that? You got evidence? And Durham probably, yep, I got it. You want to see it? I'll show it to you. Here's the evidence. Show him the evidence. So, I don't know. Is the story true? Is it not true? It's probably like most other things that come out of the deep state. It's 10% truth wrapped in 90% lies and propaganda. It's probably what it is. So I wouldn't doubt if there's a little bit of a beef between them, but, I don't, I'm not going to go off on a rail and jump all over it and dive right in and get into this Washington Post story when I have such little confidence in the Washington Post, and especially anything written by Devlin Barrett. So I'm just going to keep it cool and wait for the report to come out. As I said, I have very low expectations for the Horowitz report. Of course he's going to point out a lot of problems, but he is not going to point out any criminality. He's not going to point out the conspiracy. He's not going to do that. That's not what Huckleberry Horowitz is in position to do. He's there to protect the FBI and the DOJ, not to indict them. But anyway, Hannity has been all in on this, along with a lot of the people he has on his show, about how the IG report's going to be a bombshell. It's going to be so damaging. And I'm telling you, if you believe all that, you're going to be let down. You are going to be let down. The only person, really, the only three people that can really do anything or right this ship or expose the truth is Trump, Barr, and Durham. Those are the three guys right now. It's all in their court. Horowitz, he's a sideshow. The custodian, the cleanup man. Okay, so that's probably all I need to say on that. I think there's not much left to say at this point. We'll wait and see. We're less than a week away. We'll see what happens. But, I would say if you believe what a lot of people, Hannity and a lot of these people have been saying, oh, it's going to be, bombshell and all this. Not coming from Horowitz, it's not. Durham might drop a bomb, but it ain't coming from Horowitz. Horowitz is dropping water balloons. That's about the size of it. Well, the Schiff report, looks like they got the Schiff report out there, and it's basically going to say that Trump subverted U.S. foreign policy, pushed 2 politically motivated investigations to help his re-election campaign. He also obstructed the Inquisition, and he intimidated witnesses. And to that, I say, bullshit. Bullshit. Prove it. He can't. And that's why it's going to continue to be a disaster. Go for it. I'm just waiting to see how many of the Democrats in those red states vote, in those red districts and red states, vote for this garbage. Let's see how many of them do it. Or let's see if they back it down to censure. We'll find out. But either way, you would think they'd shut this thing down. It's been a total failure from day one. It gets worse and worse every day. And now we find out, in addition to everything else, that the bug-eyed fool hired Sharamella's friend, Sean Misko, just one day after Trump's call with Zelensky. And of course we know that Misko and Sharamella worked at the NSC together. Probably butt buddies. We also have found out today that Schiff has obtained records, telephone records, of Nunes, as well as his aide, Derek Harvey. Not only that, private citizens like Giuliani, John Solomon, and Victoria Tensing. So here's the bug-eyed fool getting phone records, which would have required a subpoena, phone records of Nunes, his aide, Giuliani, John Solomon, and Victoria Tensing. Now, how can he do that? How can Schiff get a subpoena to the phone records of these people? I think he has to have some kind of a reason for that. I don't think the chairman of any of these committees can just start randomly doing subpoenas for people's phone records, particularly private citizens. And his committee member, the minority committee member sitting right next to him, Nunes. I'm sure Devin Nunes ain't real happy about that. Maybe he should subpoena Schiff's phone records. See how that goes. Yeah, there's a lot going on with that. I think there'll be more fallout from this in the next couple of days. I haven't heard Nunes' response to this yet, or any of the responses from Giuliani, John Solomon, or any of these people. But I'm sure they're going to have a response. And if there's something a legal issue here, I would expect certainly at the very least Tensing and Giuliani will be all over it. They're lawyers and pretty good ones, so they will know Nunes can't be very happy. He just dropped a $400 million lawsuit on, I think, CNN or somebody today. So he's going after the media big time already. So, yeah, this is just a dirty deal. It's a continuation of the clown show. I just can't understand why they continue with it when it's so far has been a failure, a massive failure. It's actually helped Trump and the Republicans, and it's put a lot of Democrats in these red states and red districts in jeopardy. And a lot of them are going to have to make a decision. In fact, as I'm speaking to you now, there are probably being called in to have the vote. It'll be very interesting to see how many Democrats refuse to vote for this and how many of them fall on the sword. Because I'm telling you, Democrats in red states and red districts, if you vote to go along with this impeachment based on this garbage that's been put forth by the bug-eyed fool, most of you, if not all of you, are going to pay the ultimate price in your re-election. Maybe you think it's worth it for the party, but the party's going to lose too. The best thing you can do for the party is tell Schiff and company to screw themselves, that you're not going to vote for it. But go right ahead. I hope they do impeach, and I hope that goes over to the Senate. And maybe we'll actually find out what actually went on in Ukraine. What a mess. Speaking of a mess, looks like Kamala Legs in the Air Harris is out. Looks like she's run out of cash. Run out of cash. How's that possible? She's the senator from California. The liberal senator from California. Who's not white. And she is female. Uh-oh. What's that leave now in the Democratic field? 3 very old white people. 3 very old white people. That's your modern day Democratic Party. That's who they really stand for. three really old white people, one of them completely senile, the other dumber than dirt, and the other a commie. A true commie, not like Elizabeth Warren. She's a fake commie. Bernie is a true commie. Man, oh man, that doesn't look good. But anyway, Legs in the Air Harris, it's just funny because I remember when she first threw her hat in the ring, even Republican pundits said, oh, Kamala Harris, that's the one to beat. Yeah, uh-huh. And I remember I did the video the next day and said, are you kidding me? I've been watching this woman for years. She's dumber than dirt. I mean, literally, she did not get where she's at because of her brains, her intellect, or anything else, talent, or anything else. I don't know how she, I'm sure she schmoozed her way through high school, schmoozed her way through college and law school, and then once she got her career going, she slept with the mayor of San Francisco. And that's what really launched her into the national spotlight. So, it shouldn't surprise anybody. She was never, in my mind, a serious candidate. But I remember everybody, oh, she checks all the boxes. She's female, she's black, even though she's not black. She's female, she's like Jamaican and Indian. She's liberal, she's from California, blah, 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 blah. She checks all the boxes. The only box she didn't check was brains. She has no brains. So, Kamala's out, and many of you will be very, very happy that you don't have to hear me talk about Kamala Legs in the Air Harris anymore, and some of you will be very disappointed that you don't hear me talk about Kamala Legs in the Air Harris anymore. Either way, we win. She's gone. Good riddance. And the field shrinks while the rotten Reverend Clinton circles, waiting for that opportunity. I think she's going for the brokered convention strategy myself. Well, did you see Trump bitch slap Macron today? Yeah. So they're talking and they're being interviewed on camera, and Trump suggests to Macron that he should, if he'd like some of those jihadis back that they're holding prisoner. And then Macron tried to talk his way around it, and Trump just bitch slapped him. He says, see, that's why this guy's a great politician. He just successfully didn't answer the question. So yeah, it was kind of funny. Trump is literally like the alpha dog over there at NATO in Europe. He just towers over people. It's just everyone else around him. You look at Macron and you look at what's his name from Canada, Trudeau, and all these Europeans, I call them. They just look small compared to Trump. They look weak. Trump's definitely the alpha dog on the stage, and it's just funny to watch him work these people over. And as much as everybody cried and complained about the comments he made about NATO, the NATO Secretary General himself admits that no, NATO is actually stronger today than it ever was, thanks to Trump. And it's just got to drive these Europeans crazy, as well as the American mainstream media, who probably will never show you that comment on their program. So it's kind of funny watching Trump just dominate the world stage, and he does it with relative ease and has fun doing it. Looks like Tom Cotton is going to go after Michael Atkinson. I'm not a big Tom Cotton fan, but Michael Atkinson, of course, are talking about the Inspector General of the intelligence community, and of course we know that he's got a lot of problems. He's got a lot of problems, and apparently it's his testimony that Schiff will not release because of the question that Ratcliffe asked him, where he basically outed him. So yes, we need to find out more, and that guy needs to go. I can't believe that he's still in that position. This guy is dirty, dirty, dirty. And of course we know that he was the DOJ NSD top lawyer during the 2016 coup. My God. These people are everywhere. Like cockroaches. Whew. Well, the Daily Mail is reporting, that Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea stayed at Epstein's New Mexico ranch, known as the Baby-Making Ranch, at least once every year after leaving the White House. Of course, the Clintons were contacted, and neither of them have any comments. Now, this ranch out in New Mexico, apparently Epstein has this ranch out in New Mexico, which he actually built an entire town that looks like an Old West town. and then he built a really expensive mountain home, a few miles from there, which is where he stays. That's the main house, the main property. But apparently the Clintons will go there every year after leaving the White House, including bringing Chelsea with them sometimes, Bill Hillary and sometimes Chelsea, and they would stay in one of these places he's got there that's in this Old West town, despite the fact that the Clintons said that they had never been to or stayed at any of Epstein's properties. Apparently they were lying again. And of course we have Samantha Power just getting absolutely roasted on Twitter. Samantha Power getting roasted on Twitter, and I suspect that she's going to find herself in the crosshairs of Mr. Durham, because somebody has to explain all those unmaskings under her name, particularly the ones that were done on Inauguration Day. January 20th, 2017. Unmaskings under the name Samantha Power. She's got some splaining to do. But right now she's getting her ass kicked on Twitter because she came out and made a tweet about how shocked she is at what's going on in Iran. We now have over 500 people have been killed by the Iranian police. We have I saw the number I saw was 12,000 have been arrested. 600 have been injured and hospitalized from the beatdowns. And there'll be a lot more because the regime over there will track down every last damn one of them and torture them. So it's not good what's going on there, but the people are still continuing to revolt. It has not really completely died down. It's kind of has an ebb and flow to it, but it's not gone away. It's still going on. And Samantha Power tweets out that she's shocked at Iran's behavior. You got to be kidding me! Shocked at Iran's behavior. They do this every time. I mean, they've been, how many revolts in the last, say, 10 years? 6 fairly decent-sized revolts. And every time this is what they do. I mean, she's shocked? You got to be kidding me. And this is the same woman, remember, this is the same demon. I don't even call her a woman, she's a demon. This is the same demon, Samantha Power, that was a huge player in the Iran nuclear deal, pushing hard for it over in the UN, working every angle over in the UN to get this deal done, the Iran nuclear deal. And now she's shocked at Iran's behavior. Yep, and she is definitely getting roasted and toasted on Twitter. So should she be. Man, oh man. Glenn Simpson is doubling down. As you know, a couple of videos ago I told you that, believe it or not, he says in his book that Christopher Steele actually hired Confusion GPS. So now he's basically saying that what happened is that first Christopher Steele hired Confusion GPS to dig up dirt on Manafort. And Steele was being paid by Oleg Deripaska, the Russian oligarch, to dig up dirt on Manafort. And so Steele contacted Glenn Simpson to see if he could help him get some dirt on Manafort. Then, it was after that, according to Simpson, that he got the gig with the Clinton campaign, and then he turned to Steele to get dirt on Trump and people in Trump's orbit, which would include Manafort. So Glenn Simpson is working for this Russian prosecutor, working with Vetselnitskaya to overturn the Magnitsky Act. He's working via Christopher Steele, through Christopher Steele, another Russian oligarch, Deripaska, to get dirt on Manafort. Then he gets Steele to dig up dirt on Trump and his team about how they're colluding with Russians. Being paid for by the rotten reverend. Man, oh man. That's some very murky water you're in, Mr. Simpson. Once again, this is another individual that Horowitz would not be able to interview, which you would have to be able to interview to understand what the hell's going on. And I'm absolutely 100% sure that Mr. Durham is going to be having Mr. Simpson in front of a grand jury which he'll lie, which is what he always does, and I hope they fry his ass. I hope Durham fries his ass. Certainly needs to. This guy needs to be put away. He's done way too much bad work over the years that he's run that company. That's all they do at Confusion GPS is run smear campaigns. And some of the people that they work for and do smear campaigns for are some really, really nasty people. And probably none nastier than the rotten Reverend. Well, here's a very interesting story. Not so much a story as much as a tweet from Paul Sperry. So Paul Sperry is tweeting that Natasha Bertrand, who is, of course, this former CIA analyst that loves John Brennan, worked for John Brennan. She now is a regular on, I think, either CNN or MSNBC, one of those two. She's a regular contributor. Paul Sperry is reporting that Natasha Bertrand has been harassing John Durham on his personal cell phone on behalf of John Brennan. Natasha Bertrand has been harassing John Durham on his personal cell phone on behalf of John Brennan. Wonder where she got Mr. Durham's number. Probably from some of John Brennan's friends and the agency. My guess is that when Durham finds out who's behind these harassing phone calls, he's not going to be very happy. And I think he's already got intentions on interviewing John Brennan. And I wouldn't doubt, but when he finally gets him in front of him, if he doesn't look at him and say, hey, are you, by the way, behind those harassing phone calls I've been getting? I don't think he's going to intimidate John Durham. Based on what I've read about John Durham, he's not someone that's easily intimidated, especially by Mr. Potato Head, who he's likely got the goods on, because Brennan's a stone-cold liar. And we've got him on so many lies, I used to keep track. I think it was 6 or 7 hardcore, under oath lies. We'll let Mr. Durham deal with Mr. Brennan. I'm sure he's up to the job, very capable. Then we check over with Papagalopoulos over on his Twitter page, and he says that John Durham has learned from Australian and Israeli officials who Alexander Down the Hatch Downer's handlers were. Now, as you know, or may not know, in the intelligence community, particularly the CIA, but also in the FBI as well, they use handlers, case agents who sort of manage their sources and their assets. And Papagalopoulos is suggesting that Durham has learned from Australian and Israeli officials who Downer's handlers were. And he's also suggesting that he will find out who Mifsid's handlers were as well. I'm thinking it's probably the same guy, and I'm thinking it's Halper. I'm thinking Halper was running the covert operations during 2016, and that means he would be the primary handler. And of course, he would report to someone, and it appears that would be his boss over at the Office of Net Assessment, who's the person who's believed to be the one who leaked the Flynn Kislyak phone call. So these are interesting things, and these are very interesting times to be living in. So there you go. That's pretty much what's going on with TowerGate today. I will be back tomorrow, and we'll see what shoe drops next. Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys have a good night. See ya. Bye.